course, Experiencing the Harlem Renaissance, is going to take you on a journey. It's going to inform you very differently than you might imagine of this creative and artistic period in American and African American history and culture. It's going to inform you not only of the trials and tribulations of those writers, those artists, those entertainers, but it's also going to tell you of the internal struggles that were going on in a period where racism in America was at one of its all-time highs, when lynchings in America were increasing, and when African Americans felt disenfranchised in ways that you can possibly never imagine. In between all of that, we have the creative and artistic expertise of individuals that were creating amazing works of art and literature and theater. Most people don't really know when the Harlem Renaissance began or really what it was. It began sometime before the turn of the 20th century, actually. And we're going to look at that march towards the American entry into World War I, our exit out of the war, and the traditional start of what is now known as the Jazz Age. The new Negro Movement, known by that, or known as such by many of the Harlem intellectuals, but not known as such by the Harlem everyday man. Most people believe the Harlem Renaissance was all about literature or art or even music or some other form of entertainment, but it was so much more than that. It was a people's movement. Not many people have ever heard of individuals like Marcus Garvey. It was a global movement. Not many people know that there were countless numbers of African Americans that were expatriating to places like Paris and Berlin. Not many people know the impact of the Harlem Renaissance as a global movement that inspires the creative movements that we see today in spoken word or the Black Lives Matter movement. Taking this course will give you a different sense of not only what the Harlem Renaissance was about, but also the different layers of African American creative expression. We're going to be exploring that creative expression through art, through literature, through poetry, as well as through cinema and photography. We're really going to give you a different sense of the intricacies of African American life and culture. Typically, I teach undergraduate and even some graduate students, but I think that working with a more mature audience will give a different sense of discussion, understanding, and appreciation of this particular movement. I'm very excited to work with this group, and I can't wait to introduce you to some of the things that perhaps you've never heard of related to the Harlem Renaissance.